Russia, because there's sort of a fact that even though Russia sort of finds ways to overcome the sanctions, the sanctions are not completely useless. The sanctions actually work. The sanctions actually do hamper a lot of Russia's capability to do what it would want to do, to get weapons from abroad, to get weapon components from abroad, to do vital repairs on damaged oil refineries that have been attacked by Ukrainian drones. There are many things that would open up for Russia should the sanctions be lifted, which is a very worrying thing in the face of the fact that Trump has discussed lifting the sanctions. And very recently also, Viktor Orban has been suggesting that possibly maybe the European Union should consider lifting the sanctions, which would be basically disastrous for Ukraine, right? It would be one of the worst things that the West could do against Ukraine, quite honestly, if they lifted the sanctions against Russia, because then Russia would find it a lot more easier to just rebuild and attack in a very heavy way. But so far, the sanctions are still in place, and Russia is going through its stockpile pretty quickly. Russia is experiencing shortages of its own, and so a Russian film studio has decided to generously gift dozens of 1950s tanks to the Russian army. Here we have the whole thing written about. Russia's largest film studio has donated 36 Soviet-era tanks to the Russian Ministry of Defense. The studio's head has said, it is a pretty sad situation, wouldn't you say? When the supposedly second biggest army in the world, second biggest military or so Russia has claimed in the past, a huge power, a wannabe empire, needs a film studio to help it during tough times in the war by donating basically movie props. Movie props are being taken from the movie studio and given to Russia to use in its war against Ukraine. I'm not even going to call it the special operation because it's ridiculous. Meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Mosfilm's general director and frequent commentator on Russia's propaganda television, Karen Shakhnazarov, said that the film studio had sent the military 28 T-55 tanks, 8 PT-76 tanks, 6 infantry fighting vehicles, and 8 artillery tractors from the studio's military technical stockpile. Military technical stockpile. Equipment that is used in movies. I guess I'm not even sure what they're gonna do for the movies now, but that is the saddest thing ever. I found out that there was such a need. I contacted the Defense Ministry and they took these vehicles, Karen Shakhnazarov told Putin. Jesus Christ. Isn't it a bit embarrassing? Shouldn't it be considered a bit shameful to have to rely on the movie industry to get your equipment to be used in the war? That's very telling. The equipment was used in historical and war films set during the Cold War. The T-55 main battle tank entered the Red Army service in 1958, and the PT-76 light amphibious tank since 1951. So as you can see, these are pretty old machines. Pretty old machines that were sort of... their purpose was movie making. According to the studio's website, there are over 190 pieces of armored equipment in Mosfilm stores. So there you go. Russia has an extra stockpile that it can draw upon should it, run dry. there is still quite a few pieces of armor in the movie industry that it can share, because it's just shared 30 something or whatever with Russia, and it's 190. So there you go. Russia has a pretty solid reserve. The donation of equipment came on top of a charitable assistance of 8 million rubles, $82,000, including 6 million rubles, $61,000 for the needs of the special military operation, Shakhnazarov said. So, yeah, pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool to have such reliable stockpile to draw upon, straight from the movie set, straight from the Pulitzers. Dwindling stocks, casting doubt over whether the studio donated the equipment willingly. That is another question, actually. If they were like, yeah, we'd love to support you in your war effort, or if the Russian government was like, yeah, those look pretty usable, hand them over. Valery Ryabich, head of the Defense Express analytical team, said that the decision made by the Russian military to commandeer the tanks shows how serious the Russian army's equipment shortages are. It shows that the equipment that can be quickly put into action is running out, Ryabich told the Ukrainian Expresso private television channel, estimating the time of employment of Mosfilm's equipment to the front lines as the coming weeks. We're gonna have movie stars on the front line. Literal movie stars. It is worth noting that Mosfilm equipment is running because it is used in films, he said, adding that after minor conservation work, it can be used in accordance with the purpose for which they were designed in the Soviet Union. Wow. So cool. So cool. I wonder, we could see soon a situation in which a tank will be spotted and we'll be like, oh yeah, remember that tank from that movie. It was in that Russian movie from the year 1963 about whatever. Ryabich also pointed out that the Russian military is currently carrying out offensive actions in several directions, requiring the use of large amounts of heavy equipment, which the Ukrainians have been successfully eliminating, and that there is increasingly less wiggle room for the Russians when it comes to stockpiles of equipment. What a shameful use of tanks. I would make a case that if they stayed within the movie industry, they would last longer and find good use on the movie set. But you know what they say, c'est la vie, and all that's good has come to an end. The tanks have seen the end of their movie career.